Well, y'all, I'm making a video now, huh? I'm blessed to be alive, clothed in my right mind, and guess what? I know my left hand from my right hand. I went to bed last night, I said, thank you, Jesus. And when I got up this morning, I said, thank you, Jesus.
All right. So it's Father's Day. Let's do this. Happy Father's Day, everyone. I wanted to do this video because my father's not around anymore. And actually I had two. I had my father, my stepfather, my father Joe, and my stepfather Larry. And the reason the two of them are on my mind today is I'm sitting in my office, at my home office. I've got it decorated with pictures of my various adventures around the room. I've got a TV in the background, and while I'm working, I was watching The Matrix in the background, and it kind of dawned on me that I had witnessed a scene like that before. I walked in on my father sitting in his office in his chair with old videos of Rocky playing on the big screen TV in the background. And it was kind of interesting and kind of just hit me kind of hard that at this point in my life, I have become just like my father. In a good sense, See some of his better qualities that I have managed to pick up. I may see some of those negative ones too, but we don't talk about those today. But just all that time and all those frustrations I had with my father, to see that I have some of his qualities is just kind of an interesting realization. I don't remember my father being in the household with me. My older brother and sister, they grew up with him and my parents married. I did not. When I was around and when I can remember is him coming to visit to see my baby sister take her first step. And I thought that was just an interesting memory that I have, is I had to remember him coming to visit in order for that to happen. But that's not to say that he was an absentee father. I mean, he was around for the major moments. And even after college, I worked with him in the limousine business, the family business. So it's not like he was missing from my life. He just wasn't there in the house when I was younger. But it was kind of a struggle not having that father in the home. And I can recognize that as a part of my experience. I remember feeling jealousy of other guys and their fathers doing things together. And we did other things later. Our relationship changed and evolved. And I really do realize that he loved me and I loved him. After he passed away a number of years ago, I had the honor of having to help sift through his life in his house, and I ended up going through all of his drawers and all of his closets and really found out a lot about him that I didn't really realize and know. And he touched a lot of people. And that's something that I think I'll remember about him. Some of the things he said to me, like being where you're supposed to be and doing what you're supposed to do, is the beginning of a success story. And that's something I always remember, and I even tell to my boys now. The funniest story about my father that I can think of is his transition into the technological age. He went from doing everything by hand, pad and paper, even the limousine business was in a ledger book, to me introducing him to technology, where he calls me and he says, hey, I want to get on the internet. Can you tell me how to fix one of the old computers so I can get on the internet? I talk him through that, and then I realized, really, what are you trying to do with this computer? Get on the internet. It's an old Linux machine. There's a little bit more advanced properties going on there. I really built it to be this business machine. I don't think it's going to do what you need it to do. What was so fun about that particular experience is I had reached a point in my life where I was working professionally. I was doing software testing, and I was in the middle of a project, and he calls me in the middle of a project. He always had the best timing. He calls me in the middle of a project, and it's just, Pop, what do you need? What do you need? And he kept calling, and we're stepping through this, and finally I just, you know what, Pop, I'm just gonna send you a computer. I get on Dell, I send him a laptop. He calls me back a couple of days later, because I did the easy ship, whatever was ready to ship that day, shipped his laptop to Memphis where he was living. And he calls back and he says, hey, I got the computer monitor, but I'm just waiting for the rest of it. And I kind of sat there and I said, wait a minute, what are you waiting for the rest of? I sent you a laptop. He says, a laptop? I said, did you even open the box? No, I didn't open the box. He opens the box. Oh, so it's all in one now. So this is my father, right? Getting this laptop. And this wasn't any kind of amazing laptop, just beat up Inspiron, Dell, cheap laptop. He gets it set up and we go through the phone calls, and the first call is basically, okay, how do I get on the internet? Well, do you have Wi-Fi at your house, or do you have Ethernet? How do you get to your modem? Because I'm making assumptions in my head that he at least has internet. I was wrong. So the first day was him getting a wireless router. The next day was him calling AT&T and getting DSL. Now he can finally get on the internet. And then that was pretty much it. It went radio silent for a long time on that computer. Fast forward years, I get into his house, and as I'm packing away his things and preparing for the funeral and everything, he is still got this same beat up, outdated Windows Vista laptop on his desk. Everyone says that he would just sit there, watch TV, he'd talk to you, and then if he just had something come across his mind, he'd pop up, open up a browser, search for it. And that's how he got his information. So this opened up the world to him. In his pocket, he had a nicer cell phone than I had at the time. He has these Android tablets. He's got multiple Facebook accounts, and he is just all over the place. And he is just really deep into technology. He's got PayPal. He's using that now for the business as opposed to doing everything with cash. So he's really just grown up, just technologically wise. And that's just like that little trigger. Again, to open the gateway for him, and then he rushed in and just took it all in. And I think that's just something that's kind of amazing me about my father. The other thing is I realize as many pictures as I take, I am also just like him in that, because he used to carry around the 35mm camera and he was taking a picture of everything. That clip that you saw at the beginning here is his phone, his camera, just going through his things. I found so many pictures and so many events, limousine events, sermons he's given. Just as I'm sitting here thinking about that came through, and just to see that little clip and hear him talk and the way he always talked was a blessing to me. Next, it was Larry. Larry was a very quiet guy, and I met him when I was in high school. It's like probably junior, senior year of high school. And what was interesting is he was dating my mom, and I really didn't want anything to do with him. I had a step parent. Wasn't fond of having step anything. I really just didn't understand it. I was probably an agitating teenager. Hi, Mom. Love you. And so Larry came around, and I really didn't want anything to do with him. And what was interesting is at the time, I was driving my father's 1984 Cadillac Seville. Now, one thing about Larry is you really have to get to know him for him to open up, and he has to really want to. He was kind of a quiet soul, but he was boisterous once you got to know him. He really was camera shy, so I don't have a lot of photos of him. My mom probably does, but I didn't want to get into that. So Larry's kind of a quiet guy, and I tried to reach out, and it just really wasn't getting through to me because I didn't want anything. I didn't really want another parent, and that's kind of an interesting dynamic to be living in, especially now in my life. But he was quiet, and he was reserved, and he found a way to meet me where I was. At the time, I was driving my father's 1984 Cadillac Seville, and this is the 90s, so this is an old car, an older car, and it's definitely to the point where my father was excited to one day see the odometer roll over because he had put that many miles on this car. So this is his baby. He had engine rebuilt on it and all these different mechanical things, but some of the more conventional classic things he kind of just let slide. He didn't really deal with them. So I'll show you a picture of a 1984 Cadillac Seville so you can kind of get a basic idea, but this isn't the picture of his car. His car is gone, and I'll tell you that story too. This car was classic, and we called it Dang, because whenever you saw this car, your instant reaction was, dang. This car was huge in terms of other cars. It's like an old classic Detroit built, rock solid, giant piece of metal on four wheels. It had all the buttons because it's a Cadillac, right? So it has all the luxury items that you could imagine. It's got this huge, bar, front seat, back seat, lots of room, huge car. The sunroof leaked. The visor, the driver's side, was held up with the safety pin. That was fun. The cassette deck had a pencil shoved into it so that you could keep the cassette up so you could listen to the radio, which is just a little minor details. The shocks would go down. They were air shocks, and so I'd have to go to a gas station every once in a while and actually put air in the back bumper to lift the back end up. What else is going on with this car? Oh, the passenger side door, the handle wouldn't open. So you couldn't get it open from the inside or the outside. So if I wanted people to ride with me, they basically have to slide across the driver's side to get into the front seat. Similar thing with the back doors. Like you had the driver's side rear door didn't open and the passenger side front door didn't open. So basically this car had some issues in addition to some of the mechanical things. well, this is where Larry comes in. So I'm driving around my father's car, I'm doing my thing, and I complain about some of these things. And then he worked for GM in the factories. My father worked for Ford before he went into the business for himself. Larry worked for GM. So we are a Detroit Motor City family. Anyway, he says, hey, why don't you come to my house, and I think I can help you out with some of those issues. And so I listened. I went to his house, and in his garage he had an old Buick Regal, I believe. Because he worked for GM and dealt with all the parts and things like that, he knew what parts on this Regal would work on this Cadillac. And he took me into the garage, and he took apart the door on this Buick, got the mechanism out for the door handle, the door latch. Then we went over to the Cadillac, took apart the door, replaced the inner modules, and fixed the doors on this car. So he helped me fix my father's Cadillac just so that it would be more convenient and easy for me to drive it. That's how he approached and got in my life. He didn't ask for anything in return. I didn't have to pay him for the parts. And I learned how to take apart the door on the car. Useful information, that's a different story for later. He was always doing those kind of things, and he was always kind. And I didn't maybe not recognize it at the time what he was doing, but he was just making inroads to be involved in my life. After I went away to college, he married my mom. They got together, they moved to Southfield. And that's where they lived. And he just kind of was always quiet, always there. And I really enjoyed the time that I had with him. Things that I kind of learned from him is he wanted this Lexus car, and one day he went and got it because why wait? What are you waiting for? You can't take it with you. And if it's something that you want to do today in life, go ahead and do it. If you have a dream, go get it. Who are you waiting for? So I kind of remember that. Other things I remember about Larry is he had a huge CD collection, and that was at the time when you were ripping CDs to MP3s to listen to them on your ears in micros, because I'm not an Apple guy. It's my MP3 player, and he let me get into this massive collection. I mean, all styles of music, comedy, funk, jazz, lots of jazz. Even that is something that we shared. And he was just quiet, unassuming, and I always remember about him. And so today I've been thinking about that and thinking about Father's Day in general. I try to be a good father, and then I'm looking to those examples and those positive things that I got from my two fathers, and hopefully I'm passing on some of that, and they don't end up too crazy, or maybe they will, but maybe they'll have something nice to say about me. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point. Really, what I want to say is Happy Father's Day to all those out there. If your dad's around, give him a hug. Thank you to the fathers. I think it's been proven that, we do need you. And so I'm grateful for all of those good fathers out there. I know too many, so I'm not going to start naming names because this would be a very long video, because I know lots of great guys who are great fathers, and I'm appreciative. And hopefully I'm a good father too. Anyway, happy Father's Day. See you in the next one.